All right, welcome back. The reason I ended that other video is because it was getting a little bit long. Also, those were all us looking at graphs. Now we're going to actually look at functions. So activity 4 says, based on the given equation, students are to match the equation puzzle piece with the correct description. Okay, so as I mentioned in one of the other videos, this notation we don't necessarily use in this class, but you will use it in a higher level. But we really want to look at these words: up, up, down, 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 up, and up, down. And what that tells me is the 4 different types of end behavior we have. Up, up, and down, down head in the same direction. So the red, or I guess this is pink, this pink and green box, these represent even functions. The pink one represents a positive even, and the green one represents a negative even. And how do I know that? Because up, up, and down, down, those are headed the same direction. The ends are going the same way, so that's why it's even. Over here, down, up versus up, down, those are headed different directions. So these are odd. So this blue and red one over here are odd. Down, up, since it's going up on the right, represents positive leading coefficients. And over here, up, down, since it's down on the right, it represents negative leading coefficients. So we need to look at these functions and not only determine the degree, but as well as the leading coefficient and whether it's positive or negative. So I'm going to start with j of x here. Looks pretty simple. Negative 2x plus 4. Well, remember, the degree is the highest exponent. So my variable, negative 2x, is going to be a higher exponent than my constant 4. So my degree here is 1 because it does not show. So like if you compare it to r of x, which has negative x to the 7th, I see a 7 there. Since I don't see a number here for j, I know that that number has to be 1. And what kind of number is 1? Is it even or odd? It's odd, right? So since it's odd, I know that that's going to be over here in this section. And I'm going to break these up just like I did before. So I'm just right now looking at even versus odd. Now if we look at r of x, is 7 an even or an odd number? Odd again. And now I'm looking at this one, h of x, 1/2 x cubed, or x to the 3rd. What type of number is 3, even or odd? Odd again. All right, so now let's look at g of x. I have 3x plus 2x squared. As soon as I read that, I know it's not in standard form because the 2x squared should come before the 3x. So I have 3x plus 2x squared minus 4x cubed minus 6x to the 6th. So this is actually the opposite of standard form. We should start with the 6, then the 3, then the 2, and then the 1. So my degree here is actually based on this. This is my leading term. It's just not written in standard form. Negative 6x to the 6th power. So is 6 an even or an odd number? Even, right? So I'm going to move that over here. Now I'm looking at this f of x. I have negative x squared plus x minus 4. This is in standard form. Goes 2, then 1, then the constant. So is 2 an even or odd number? Even, right? Okay, so I move this over here. And then just keep going. I have x to the 10th, x to the 9th, x squared. So 10 is the biggest, so this is in standard form, and 10 is an even number. So I'm just going to scoot that over here. And then I'm just going to look at this one, p of x. Initially, I might be like, oh, cool, x cubed, then it's odd. But again, you have to make sure that it's in standard form. And this one is not. It has x cubed, 2x to the 4th, negative 7x minus 9 minus x cubed. Squared. So the highest exponent here, the degree, is 4. 2x to the 4th would be our leading term. So this is actually an even function. And then finally here, we know it has to be odd. There's 4 on each side, but let's just double check. Negative 2 plus 2x to the 5th plus 2x squared minus 2x. The 5th power is the highest one, so that means that it is in fact odd. So now we want to look at these 4 and determine Are they positive or negative? And now that we know, I kind of pointed out what our leading terms were, leading coefficients were, we should be able to determine easily if it's negative or positive. So let's start with q of x here. We know that 2x to the fifth is our leading term because that has the highest degree. So then you just ask yourself, the number in front of x is the coefficient. So is the coefficient 2, is that positive or negative number? 2 is a positive number. So since 2 is a positive number, it means it's going to go up on the right. So I'm going to put it in the column that has up on the right. Then if we look at the next one, r of x, it's already in standard form. So the number in front of x is -1. I just said it, -1. So since it's a -1, we know it's negative and it's going down on the right. Again, another one in standard form, and the coefficient is -2. Since it's -2, it's negative and it's going down on the right. Again, by process of elimination, we know this has to go here, but why? Let's justify it. Well, the leading coefficient here, or the only coefficient really, is 1/2. 1/2, even though it's not a whole number, it is a positive number, so it is going to go here because it's going up on the right. So now let's look at the evens. So I'm going to start with p of x. If I look at p of x, we said before that the leading term was 2x to the fourth. And the reason that 2x to the fourth is the leading term is because 4 is the highest degree, exponent, 4 is the highest exponent, which makes it our degree. So now I'm looking at the coefficient of 2x to the fourth. It's 2. So you didn't hear me say negative. So since I didn't say negative, it's positive. And since it's positive, it's going up on the right. So the next one, k of x, is in standard form. So since it's in standard form, I'm looking at the leading term, x to the 10th power, and I see there's no number in front of x. Anytime there's no number in front of the x or on top of the x, we know that number is 1. So is 1 a positive or negative number? 1 is a positive number. So I'm going to put that here because it has to go up on the right if it's positive. Now I'm going to look at f of x. It says -x squared, and this is in standard form, plus x minus 4. You heard me say it, negative. So that means that coefficient is -1 and it goes down on the right. And finally, we have g of x. I already said this was written completely backwards of standard form. It should be -x to the 6th minus 4x cubed plus 2x squared plus 3x. But even though it's not written in standard form, because I see that 6 is the highest exponent, I know that's my degree, and I know that -6x to the 6th should be my leading term. So I'm looking at -6. -6. It's negative, so since it's negative, it is going to go down on the right. So I encourage you to play back this video, pause it a little bit through, and try and break down how I'm determining the degree, the leading coefficient, and how the degree and the leading coefficient ends up making you go in one of these 4 boxes. It's a little bit trickier looking at the equation for some people than it is at the graph, okay? So just go ahead and look at that, and then I'll be back in another video to go through activity 5 through 8.